So let's have a look how we can run the latest Viptela code. So in this lab, I'll be using version 19.2.2. I think 20 or 21 is the latest, but 19.2.2 is pretty up to date as well. The only difference is that you need a provisioning file from Cisco. So this is the main thing I'm trying to cover in this video, how to configure your lab if you need the provisioning file. So I'll cover how to create the smart account and generate the provisioning file, and then how to use that file in the lab to bring up the vEdges devices. So most of the config, well, 90% of the config will be the same, which I've already covered in a previous video. So yeah, I'll probably not talk a lot in this video and just configure the devices and provide the config file later on at the end of the video. So as we can see, I have Viptela 19.2.2 on vManage. So I'm just going to configure the initial password, format the hard drive, and then configure the certificates and bring up the GUI. So once I have the GUI for vManage, the only difference is that for the certificate authorization, we will select Enterprise, and the organization name needs to exactly match with what we will use on the Cisco Smart Account portal to generate the provisioning file. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start configuring these devices once these are up. So you might not hear me talking a lot. So vBond comes up with vEdges, so I'll just configure it with vBond. Okay, rest of the config is pretty simple on the LAN and WAN routers. So there is a LAN router here which is running a DHCP server for my Linux host, and then there is an internet WAN router which is connecting these sites. I have not configured MPLS, and this will be the main site, DC or HQ, whatever we want to call it. So I'm planning on configuring this as DC, and then we will have two branch sites, site 300 and site 400. And I'll configure MPLS. Well, this router will simulate sort of MPLS, and this will simulate internet connection. Okay, and the config is pretty simple and basic, which I have already covered in a previous video, and I will share this file in the description as well. So this is the basic config. Okay, so vManage is ready. go ahead and copy and paste this config. So sometimes I see these messages, but they are not very often. I think they initially, if you let it wait a little bit and then let it come up, then you don't see these messages. But yeah, if you try to do it too quickly, then sometimes I see these messages. Okay, Ethernet 00, we want it in VPN 512. Okay, so we'll just do no interface Ethernet 0 because we are already in VPN 0. And then commit and quit. And if we do show running config, okay, so we can see that our config is there. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is bring up the GUI. Okay, so you can see 404 initially. Give it a few minutes and it will come up. So while this is loading, what we'll do is we'll generate the keys, which we need to generate our certificates. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go into vShell and then create the key. On vManage, I'll go into vShell, create this key. So I'll say UK, state and province. I'll leave the city to London. Organization name is Start Trace 123. OU, I'll put the same. In fact, let's put OU will be, let's say, SDWAN lab. Common name, email address. And then let's install this certificate. Okay, so the certificate is installed in the root chain, and we can use this command show certificate root cert, and we can see that the cert is installed. Okay, and then we need to go to vManage GUI certification controllers, and then we'll generate the CSR. Go into vShell. So when we generate, we will see CSR in here, and we will create the CRT file and install that. So let's go to GUI. Okay, it's taking longer than expected. I wasn't expecting it to take that long, but okay, until this is going on, what we can do is we can install this key on vSmart and vBond, which we need to do at the later step, so I'll just go ahead and do that now. So let's create the files first. Okay, so the certificate is installed on vBond. So the same command on vSmart. Okay, I must have renamed it incorrect. So, yeah, I put a hyphen after SD1. So let's just rename them. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is go to Administration Settings, and here we need to configure the organization name, and this will be milestone place 1 to 3. Save. Next we need to configure the vBond, which is 10.1.1.2, and controller certification authorization, we need to change that from Cisco to Enterprise Suite Cert. Proceed, and then here we will paste the certificate which we generated on vManage, and we'll be using that. So we've used the same cert on vBond and vSmart. Okay, import and save. Okay, so once this is done, we'll go to Devices and Controllers, add a controller, vBond. Okay, once we have the controllers added and the CSRs generated, So go back to our CLI. And so here we should be able to see our vManage CSR. And we'll create the CRT file with this CSR. And now we will get this file and install certificate, install. Okay, so that's done. Next we need to go to vBond, reshare, and we can see the vBond CSR is there. And we've got the vSmart CSR. Okay, so we've got the controllers added, and we've got the cert added for vManage. Now we can go to vBond. We have already installed the key. We have added the vBond. Now we can copy the CSRs to vManage and create the CRTs. And I'll do the same for vSmart. Okay, now we've got the vBond CSR and we've got the vSmart CSR. Go back to our certificates. Controllers, install. Okay, so this should have, now we should have our controllers certificate installed. So let's take a look how we can get the device list from Cisco using the Smart account. So these will be the devices vEdges and CSR 1000. So here you can see I'm logged in with my Gmail account. So it's not an account which is associated with a partner or a company. So you can log in with a normal Gmail account. And then if you go to support and licensing and contracts, and then just go to request a smart account. So here we'll fill out the information. At the bottom here, this account name needs to be unique in the Cisco database. So you can use a name or a domain name to create this account. So I've just provided a name for a domain which I have registered. It doesn't need to be registered. You could use any organization name you want. So I'll go ahead and create the account. Okay, let's change that. So next our account is created. Okay, and if I go to manage your account, virtual accounts, and then I will create a virtual account. Give it a name, let's call it SDWAN lab, and access level private, and everything else I can leave by default. And then click on next. If you want to assign any users, you can assign users. You can search by CCO and it will bring up the users. If it's a company email address, you can search by email address and assign users to this account. So I'll just leave this blank and click next and create virtual account. So once our account is created, go back to the main screen and click on plug and play connect. Okay, and at the top here, we will select our SD-WAN account. We'll go to controller profiles, add a profile, and we need to select vBond. Click on next. And profile name, we'll call it SD-WAN lab. This will be our default profile, and organization name. So this needs to be exactly what your organization name you intend to use in your lab. IPv4, and it will be 10.1.1.2 in our case. And next. Okay, let's do 1, 2, 3. And then submit. And then next we will add devices to this profile. So add software devices, and click on add software device, and you can search for vEdge, and it will bring up the vEdge cloud for Viptela devices. And here, let's say we want to add 10 vEdge devices. And we will add CSR 1000V. And let's say we want 10 of these. Next. And then submit. Okay, and then next you will see it will show pending for publish. So we'll wait for this to go to provisioning. Okay, so once the devices are in provision state, we'll go to controller profiles, and then from here we can download our provisioning file. So we can see that we have 20 devices. So we'll download this provisioning file and we'll select 18.3 and newer and save this file. Okay, so once we have this file saved and downloaded and saved, okay, so that's our file. You can log out from Cisco. We can go to vManage list and then we'll upload the vManage file. Okay, so we can see we've got our 20 devices which we generated our provisioning file with. And now we can so next thing we need to do is configure the vManage, vEdges, and we need to let's open vH1, vH2. vH2. Cannot do Control A. Oops. What sort of commands have I put in? Okay, so we can see we have got our cert with the exit, and next we need to install these certs. Okay, so it's done on VH1, got the VH2, and finally we need to configure the VPN. So if I go to vManage, do the same thing on vSmart. And on vBond, we just need to configure the VPN0 IPsec. Okay, now let's see if we've got our vEdges. If we can get our vEdge working. So let's say we wanted, so you pick up any of the two vEdge which from the list which are not used. So let's say if I pick the first one, so you can either click on the three dots and then say generate bootstrap configuration and cloud init. This will generate some configuration and the cert for this device, what certs you need to put on the device. And what we need is we just need the chassis and the one-time password. So this is our chassis, and then this is the one-time password or token, and this is the same information which we have here. So if we look here, this chassis number matches this one here, and the token is just in front of the chassis. So if I close this and go back to our vEdge1, and we need to use this command. Now here we'll put the chassis number, which is this, and then the token is this. Go to vEdge2. Let's request vEdge activate chassis number. So let's pick up the second one. And then token would be this. Okay, so once we have done this, we can use this command to check the cert, but it will not be installed yet. So at the moment we can see it says not installed. Right, so I've just reduced it so we can see once the command is installed. So it says not installed, so we need to go to vManage, and then if we scroll forward, I think it's in the devices. So need to go search, send to controllers. Oh, before I did that, I should have validated them. But okay, so we can see that we used two vEdges. So the one which we created, the bootstrap config, you see this icon, it says bootstrap configuration generated. And I think the second one was B675. So B675. Okay, and what we need to do is go to the first one, to click wallet, and then the second one, and select wallet, send to controllers. Okay, so on our GUI we can see that we have two devices populated, vEdges1 and vEdges2, and the certificate is installed. And if we go to our devices and run show control local properties, so we can see that our cert is valid and installed. If we go to vEdges2, so we can see here as well it's installed and it's valid. And if I go to here and to vManage and do show control connections, so we should be seeing the two vEdges devices in here, and we can see all the other connections. Okay, so this is how we will use a provisioning file to provision vEdges devices, and we can provision CSR 1000V. So in the next video, I'll probably configure a CSRV and some of the underlay routing protocols, and then see how we can bring up the SD-WAN overlay. Please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you.